Swahili language, also called Kiswahili, or Kiswahili, Bantu language spoken either as a mother tongue or as a fluent second language on the east coast of Africa in an area extending from Lamu Island, Kenya, in the north to the southern border of Tanzania in the south. The Bantu languages form a subgroup of the Banya-Congo branch of the Niger-Congo language family. People who speak Swahili as their sole mother tongue are usually referred to as Waswahili, but this name refers to their language only and does not denote any particular ethnic or tribal unit. Swahili is widely used as a lingua franca in 1. Tanzania, where it is the language of administration and primary education, 2. Kenya, where it is, after English, the main language for these purposes, 3. Congo, Kinshasa, where a form of Swahili is one of the 4 languages of administration, the main language for this purpose being French, and 4. Uganda, where the main language is again English. Swahili has been greatly influenced by Arabic. There are an enormous number of Arabic loanwords in the language, including the word Swahili, from Arabic Sahel, a plural adjectival form of an Arabic word meaning of the coast. The language dates from the contacts of Arabian traders with the inhabitants of the east coast of Africa over many centuries. Under Arab influence, Swahili originated as a lingua franca used by several closely related Bantu-speaking tribal groups. In the early 19th century, the spread of Swahili inland received a great impetus from its being the language of the Arab ivory and slave caravans, which penetrated as far north as Uganda and as far west as Congo. Swahili was later adopted by European colonialists, especially the Germans, who used it extensively as the language of administration in Tanganyika, thus laying the foundation for its adoption as a national language of independent Tanzania. In Kenya and Uganda, other local languages also received official encouragement during the colonial period, but the tendency in these countries is now to emphasize the use of Swahili. The oldest preserved Swahili literature, which dates from the early 18th century, is written in the Arabic script, though the language is now written in the Roman alphabet. Swahili, also known by its local name Kiswahili, is a Bantu language spoken by the Swahili people, who are found primarily in Tanzania, Kenya, and Mozambique, along the East African coast and adjacent littoral islands. Swahili has a high number of loanwords from other languages, mainly Arabic and Persian, as well as from Portuguese, English and German. Around 15% of Swahili vocabulary consists of Arabic loanwords, including the name of the language, Sahel, a plural adjectival form of an Arabic word meaning of the coast. The loanwords date from the era of contact between Arab slave traders and the Bantu inhabitants of the east coast of Africa, which was also the time period when Swahili emerged as a lingua franca in the region. The number of Swahili speakers, be they native or second language speakers, is estimated to be around 80 million. Due to concerted efforts by the government of Tanzania, Swahili is one of 3 official languages, the others being English and French, of the East African Community, EAC, countries, namely Burundi, Kenya, Rwanda, Tanzania, and Uganda. It is a lingua franca of other areas in the African Great Lakes region and East and Southern Africa, including some parts of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, DRC, Malawi, Mozambique, the southern tip of Somalia, and Zambia. Swahili is also one of the working languages of the African Union and of the Southern African Development Community. The East African Community created an institution called the East African Kiswahili Commission, EAKC, which began operations in 2015. The institution currently serves as the leading body for promoting the language in the East African region, as well as for coordinating its development and usage for regional integration and sustainable development. In recent years South Africa, Botswana, Namibia, Ethiopia, and South Sudan have begun offering Swahili as a subject in schools or have developed plans to do so. Shikomar, or Comorian, an official language in Comoros and also spoken in Mayotte, Shimar, is closely related to Swahili and is sometimes considered a dialect of Swahili, although other authorities consider it a distinct language. In 2022, Based on Swahili's growth as a prominent international language, the United Nations declared Swahili Language Day as July 7 to commemorate the date that Julius Nyerere adopted Swahili as a unifying language for African independence struggles. Swahili is a Bantu language of the Sabeka branch. In Guthrie's geographic classification, Swahili is in Bantu Zone G, whereas the other Sabeka languages are in Zone E70, commonly under the name Nyuka. Historical linguists consider the Arabic influence on Swahili to be significant, since it takes around 40% of its vocabulary directly from Arabic, and was initially spread by Arab slave traders along the East African coast. The core of the Swahili language originates in Bantu languages of the coast of East Africa. Much of Swahili's Bantu vocabulary has cognates in the Pokomo, Tata, and Mijikenda languages and, to a lesser extent, other East African Bantu languages. Swahili has become a second language spoken by tens of millions of people in the four African Great Lakes countries, Kenya, DRC, Uganda, and Tanzania, where it is an official or national language. It is also the first language for many people in Tanzania, especially in the coastal regions of Tanga, Pwani, Dar es Salaam, Mpura, and Lindi. In the inner regions of Tanzania, Swahili is spoken with an accent influenced by other local languages and dialects. There, it is a first language for most of the people who are born in the cities, whilst being spoken as a second language in rural areas. Swahili and closely related languages are spoken by relatively small numbers of people in Burundi, Comoros, Malawi, Mozambique, Zambia, and Rwanda. The language was still understood in the southern ports of the Red Sea in the 20th century. The East African Community created an institution called the East African Kiswahili Commission, EAKC, which began operations in 2015. The institution currently serves as the leading body for promoting the language in the East African region, as well as for coordinating its development and usage for regional integration and sustainable development. Swahili is among the first languages in Africa for which language technology applications have been developed. The widespread use of Swahili as a national language in Tanzania came after Tanganyika gained independence in 1961 and the government decided that it would be used as a language to unify the new nation. This saw the use of Swahili in all levels of government, trade, art as well as schools in which primary school children are taught in Swahili, before switching to English, medium of instruction, in secondary schools, although Swahili is still taught as an independent subject. After Tanganyika and Zanzibar unification in 1964, Taasisi ya Uchunguzi wa Kiswahili, TUKI, Institute of Swahili Research, was created from the Interterritorial Language Committee. In 1970 TUKI was merged with the University of Dar es Salaam, while Baraza la Kiswahili la Taifa, BAKITA, was formed. BAKITA is an organization dedicated to the development and advocacy of Swahili as a means of national integration in Tanzania. Key activities mandated for the organization include creating a healthy atmosphere for the development of Swahili, encouraging use of the language in government and business functions, coordinating activities of other organizations involved with Swahili, standardizing the language. BAKITA Vision R. 1. To efficiently manage and coordinate the development and use of Kiswahili in Tanzania. 2. To participate fully and effectively in promoting Swahili in East Africa, Africa, and the entire world over. Although other bodies and agencies can propose new vocabularies, BAKITA is the only organization that can approve its usage in the Swahili language. In Kenya, Kiswahili has been the national language since 1964 and is official since 2010. Chama cha Kiswahili cha Taifa, CHAKITA, was established in 1998 to research and promote Kiswahili language in Kenya. Kiswahili is a compulsory subject in all Kenyan primary and secondary schools. In order to strengthen political ties with other East African community nations, both Kiswahili and English have been taught in Burundian elementary schools since the academic year 2005/2006. Kiswahili is now used widely in Burundi but is not recognized as an official language. Only French, Kirundi, and English have this distinction. Uganda adopted Kiswahili as the official language in 2022, and also made it compulsory across primary and secondary schools in the country. The Swahili language is not widespread in Somalia and has no official status nationally or regionally. Dialects of Swahili are spoken by some ethnic minorities on the Bajuni Islands in the form of Kibajuni on the southern tip of the country and in the town of Brava in the form of Chimwianai. Both contain a significant amount of Somali and Italian loanwords. Standard Swahili is generally only spoken by Somali nationals who have resided in Kenya and subsequently returned to Somalia. Lastly, a closely related language Mushanyuli, also known as Zigula, Zigwa, or Chizigua, is spoken by some of the Somali Bantu ethnic minority mostly living in the Juba Valley. It is classified as a Northeast Coast Bantu language as Swahili is and has some intelligibility with Swahili. Swahili played a major role in spreading both Christianity and Islam in East Africa. From their arrival in East Africa, Arabs brought Islam and set up madrasas, where they used Swahili to teach Islam to the natives. As the Arab presence grew, more and more natives were converted to Islam and were taught using the Swahili language. From the arrival of Europeans in East Africa, Christianity was introduced to the region. While the Arabs were mostly based in the coastal areas, European missionaries went further inland spreading Christianity. As the first missionary posts in East Africa were in the coastal areas, missionaries picked up Swahili and used it to spread Christianity, since it contained many similarities with other indigenous languages in the region. During the struggle for Tanganyika independence, the Tanganyika African National Union used Swahili as a language of mass organization and political movement. This included publishing pamphlets and radio broadcasts to rally the people to fight for independence. After gaining independence, Swahili was adopted as the national language. To this day, Tanzanians carry a sense of pride when it comes to Swahili, especially when it is used to unite over 120 tribes across Tanzania. Swahili was used to strengthen solidarity within the nation, and remains to be a key identity of the Tanzanian people. Swahili nouns are separable into classes, which are roughly analogous to genders in other languages. In Swahili, prefixes mark groups of similar objects, M marks single human beings, mtoto child, WA marks multiple humans, watoto children, U marks abstract nouns, utoto childhood, and so on. And just as adjectives and pronouns must agree with the gender of nouns in some languages with grammatical gender, so in Swahili adjectives, pronouns, and even verbs must agree with nouns. This is a characteristic feature of all the Bantu languages. In Somalia, where the Afro-Asiatic Somali language predominates, a variant of Swahili referred to as Chimwianai, also known as Chimbalese, is spoken along the Benadir coast by the Bravanesa people. Another Swahili dialect known as Kibajuni also serves as the mother tongue of the Bajuni minority ethnic group, which lives in the tiny Bajuni Islands as well as the southern Kismayo region. In Oman, there are an estimated 52,000 people who speak Swahili as of 2020. Most are descendants of those repatriated after the fall of the Sultanate of Zanzibar. Thank you for watching this video.